Hello. Uh, Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? So my name is Ciaran Delaney. I'm from Easons, and I'm working with the company and in the book industry just coming on a year now, so this is still quite new to me. It's great to be here today to see the conference bustling, and I'm delighted to be here to share some practical tips on digital marketing and growing sales online. A lot of what I will be speaking about this afternoon will be about driving online sales through an e-commerce platform, but I think some of the tips anyway, can still be used to drive footfall in store, not necessarily just to convert online sales. So there should be something there for everyone. So it's certainly fair to say that digital marketing is an ever-evolving beast. Certainly an exciting industry to work in. But trying to stay on top of it is certainly a challenge. It's changing rapidly year on year, even month on month at times. Certainly for small independent businesses, be it in book selling or other industries, it can come across as extremely daunting, especially if you've limited budgets and limited resources to dedicate to it. Really the key channels to drive your online business, or again footfall into store, will be search, social and email marketing. So what I'd like to go through today is just Google Analytics and how it's changing this year, the basics of a website for SEO and for your customer, really understanding your audience, how to socialize your store and drive revenue via social media, email marketing in 2023 and going forward, and how paid search is evolving, and finally, the unfortunate power of influencers. So, if you have a website, it's vital to really kind of get an understanding of what people on your website are doing. Are they dropping off? Are they purchasing? What pages they're visiting? For most SMEs over the last 10 to 15 years, they would use Google Analytics, or what's known as Universal Analytics. That platform hasn't really changed in well over a decade, but this year there's a fundamental change to how that tool performs. So it's going to move from Universal Analytics into what's called Google Analytics 4, or GA4. So what's different? Ultimately, as devices have sort of evolved over time, people just aren't necessarily on websites, they're on apps and other tools where they're interacting with businesses. So GA4 essentially puts more emphasis on events on your website or your app rather than sessions or volume of users on your website. So by events on your website, that can mean things like somebody clicking a button, searching, clicking on a banner, starting a checkout. So how small businesses will analyze how people are interacting with their websites is going to fundamentally change. That change is coming soon. So of all your takeaways today, if you do have an e-commerce website, or even a non-e-com website, is to really prepare yourself for this change. So on the 1st of July of this year, Universal Analytics will stop processing any data. So if you were to go on the 2nd of July, it would say that you've had no visitors, no traffic, nothing has happened on your website. So what can you do now if you have an internal or even an external web developer who builds your website for you? I'd get onto them ASAP, try and get you migrated onto GA4 and start running your data through that version of the platform. If you do manage your website yourself, there is a handy, and if you've been on your Google Analytics, you'll see this banner at the very top of your page every time you log in. It does a basic GA4 migration for you, if you follow the steps. So like that, I would absolutely encourage you to do that sooner rather than later. So most of your e-commerce or digital marketing activities can be wasted if you don't have a well-structured website. You can drive as many people to it if they can't find what they're looking for, if they can't traverse categories, if they struggle to understand how to add something to a cart and check out, you're wasting your time and your money. When we think of SEO, certainly in the industry, we feel we do a lot of work to satisfy Google, satisfy Bing, make sure that they're happy with how our sites are indexing. But ultimately, you should be developing a website for your customers. As long as they can ultimately understand how to access your site, how to quickly look at categories and products and check out, ultimately Google will then reward you. So it's essentially like a chicken and egg situation. If you spend your time really honing in on how your customers interact with your site and making it easy for them, Google will then reward you. There's the old content is king line. It still remains today. So we're kind of blessed in the book industry that, one, our customers like to read, I hope, and two, that we have a huge range of topics that we can write about, create content for. So trying to keep on top of that can seem quite daunting over time, but if you take activities like in your stores, you might build curations for, be it book talk or whatever might be happening, it's quite easy to replicate that on a website. So if you replicate that on your website, some nice curations, write about it in some blog content, and drive some traffic to those curations, again, Google will start rewarding you online, and your customers will be inspired to spend more money with you. So it's vital that you really kind of get to know and understand your online audience. So I'm sure all of you who own stores look around your store every day, understand who your customer is, their age profiles, who they would socialize with, what topics they're interested in and involved in, and online is very similar. So it's really important to kind of understand, again, using your analytics tools, really get an idea of who the people are coming to your website. Just take a look at some of the social media channels and where the Irish audience engage online. So on Facebook today, 63% of the Irish population have Facebook accounts. I know, certainly in my age bracket, I would have started as a Gen Z at that age bracket and moved up to what I am today, which will remain nameless. But it's becoming, Facebook itself is becoming more for an older generation who've kind of grown up with it over time. So you'll see primarily millennials and Gen X and boomers to a degree are still quite active on Facebook, where that's less so for the up-and-coming generation, Gen Z, which is 26 years and younger. It's fairly even split in terms of the gender breakdown, 55% for female and 45% of male. So again, if you feel that your customers that are walking through your stores and like that would engage with your brand, fit into that sort of profile, Facebook might be the channel to market on. If we look at Instagram, 48% of the Irish population have an Instagram account. You see it's skewed a little bit further for females, up to 57%. But again, what you can see here is that Gen Z is a little bit more active here. So that cohort of people then are obviously more likely to engage with visual imagery and that platform. So you'll see that the likes of Gen X and boomers have less of a presence on Instagram. Twitter, which is a strange place. 25% of the Irish population have a Twitter account. It's a lot more skewed towards male as opposed to female. We don't actually have a breakdown over the age brackets. It's a challenge to market there. It's more of an engagement tool, a customer service tool, but it is something just to be aware of as well. And then everyone's favorite, TikTok. I'm going to show my ignorance with this one, but 21% of the Irish population currently are TikTok users, and what will come as no surprise is that the vast majority of them are in Gen Z. So again, you're 26 years and younger. Again, it's quite heavily skewed towards female, 57% again. and the older generations have little to no presence there as well. So again, if you're going after that book talk customer, the next generation coming up, it's important then to be active with TikTok. One thing to certainly be considerate of if you have social media channels or a website, that again the next generation are much more keen to engage with customer or with retail brands where it's convenient for them. So it's live chats, it's social media, messaging tools. They're a lot less inclined to pick up the phone and ring a shop. So some research that was taken out shows that 35% of potential customers will either go to a competitor or drop out altogether if they don't feel that you respond to them on social media quick enough. Now again, if you're to be active on every single channel, that's quite a challenge to try and respond to everything. So maybe again, just determine who you feel your customer is and set up your communication channels to communicate with them there. So social commerce, it continues to grow. It certainly will this year and beyond. And what we're finding now is the sort of lines between an e-com website and social commerce are blurring more and more. So a lot of the big platforms like Instagram and TikTok, certainly in the US at the minute and will come to Ireland very shortly, is essentially what's social commerce. So you might not necessarily understand that when you purchase something on Instagram that it's actually going through a e-commerce platform. So if you're sort of at the early stages of planning to get into e-commerce, look at some of those more modern platforms that have these deep integrations. It just allows you to essentially sell in more channels. Using paid social advertising, so using the RAD platforms, it gives you a good opportunity to build brand awareness, to kind of to market to people who might not necessarily be in market for something, so they're not actively looking for a certain book at the time, but you can then target them based on their habits, their online activity and things like that. Where it differs from, it also gives you the opportunity, quite like Google Ads that we'll speak about shortly, but it lets you speak to your audience on a hyper-local level. So you don't necessarily, if you're in a small town, small rural town or village, you don't necessarily want to market to everyone in the country, that you can essentially market in your catchment area. So it can be quite powerful like that. If you're marketing just in your catchment area and it's a small demographic as such, that it's quite an affordable option. Short form video. So as we're probably all aware, this is becoming massive. It's been a big growth curve for a number of years. So by creating content for your customers where they spend most of their time, which is on their phone, like myself included, it's the best opportunity to really get them while they have their face glued in their phone, like I say. So a couple of tips for creating short form video content. Keep it short, so 15 seconds or less, and create it in vertical mode, so like that most people will view it in portrait, don't like unlocking their phone and turning it. You really want to capture their attention quite quickly, so if you need to flash your brand or the key message that you're trying to get across, be it a discount or a promotion, whatever it might be, do it early. And absolutely designed for sound off viewing. I don't know how many people in the room have ever have their phone off mute. I certainly don't. So you want to get across your message using text and captions and social signals and things like that. And where, I suppose, applicable, and you can, link to your website. So try and drive more of those people onto your website. So again, you can then understand how they interact with your website, what they might be interested in, and if they're inclined to purchase with you. So email marketing, people keep trying to write it off and keep saying it's dying, but it won't. It continues to grow. It continues to be extremely important part of the digital marketing mix. There's absolutely no better way to directly contact your customers. They've given explicit contact following GDPR to contact them. They're going to have an affinity to your brand. And yeah, we've found in our business that the customers who engage with us via email will spend more time on the website, they'll view more pages, and they will convert at a higher rate as opposed to some other channels. So if it's another takeaway for today, it's really focus in on email marketing for the year. As the technology improves, so maybe previously you would see people would just send blast all emails, so everybody would just get the same email. So if I have no interest in children's books, I'm receiving that email, it's irrelevant to me, I'm starting to disengage with the brand. Most modern email marketing tools now are a lot more sophisticated. They'll allow you to, again, track what people are clicking on in the email, but then you can follow that through into your website. So we know that you have come from this email, you have shown an inclination to only shop children's books. So what we will do is then segment you as a children's customer, and we will target your messaging more towards that. So people will more than likely engage more if the content seems more relevant to their interests. So it's very important to build out those profiles. Like I say, these customers have given you explicit information to contact them, and what you're taking is what's called first-party data. So it's the best thing you can be doing now, really. Very important. Most modern email tools as well will allow you to kind of build automations. So while again it can feel daunting if you have a small budget or a small resource to try and manage something like this, if you spend a little time initially building up automations such as welcome series or abandoned cart series, that for the best part you can just leave those run over time, and they'll again deliver revenue to your business. In terms of digital marketing, paid search still dominates. It's where most digital ad euros go. Google is still the most prominent player there. They take an absolute huge chunk of the market share in search, but there's opportunities there as the landscape is changing. So Microsoft ads or Bing ads and Amazon itself, unfortunately, I know we're not allowed to say the name, are taking more and more search traffic. So people are going to those areas to search. Again, if you're a small retailer with limited budgets, there's an opportunity to go to Microsoft ads or Bing ads, as there's less competition and your cost per acquisitions are generally cheaper. Google themselves have carried out research, and this kind of blew my mind, is that of that Gen Z we spoke about earlier, 40% of them actively search on TikTok and Instagram. They don't go to Google, they don't go to Bing, they go to TikTok for book recommendations, restaurant recommendations, holiday recommendations. So really trying, if you're going to try and capture that next generation, getting your head around how they search and how they're looking for product today is vitally important. One thing I have at the bottom there, if you're committing budget to search advertising, the most important KPI there for you to focus on is ROAS, or return on ad spend, which is essentially how much money you spend divided by the amount of money that brings in. So that will give you a good indication if you're spending your money correctly, if it's giving you a return. Where if we look back at the social media marketing, if that doesn't return or you feel like you're losing money, it's still a brand awareness exercise. It can be, depending on your strategy. So you can just view how you're spending that money differently. But ultimately, if you're in paid search, you want to return profit or revenue from that ad activity. So that's the key metric to focus on. And then finally, love them or loathe them. Influencers, it's something I don't really understand. It's not my world whatsoever. But they can absolutely drive revenue to your business. If you look at the likes, who are the big influencers, Kim Kardashian, I suppose, if she's to do a post here or something, it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands, if not millions of euro to do that. But the opportunity for small retailers is to look local. And there's a lot of, certainly in my area, a lot of local influencers. They might have what seems minimal 1,000 or 2,000 followers, but if they actively promote your brand and it's an authentic message, you will see a huge return on it. There is a platform, it's a new enough platform, Irish platform, I think Ross Byrne, the rugby player, is behind it, called Starfolio, where they essentially have lists of influencers, wannabe influencers, which you can whittle down, see if there's a match for your brand and contact them quite easily. Like I say, a lot of the time it's extremely affordable, so it's certainly worth testing the waters if you're looking to drive, again, traffic to your site or footfall into your store. So the key takeaways would be to migrate your website to Google Analytics 4. Really kind of concentrate on your site structure, make sure your customers can traverse it quite easily. Really get a handle on your online audience. Who are they? Where do they congregate online, if you will, and how to market to them. Really utilize short form video content. That's nearly across all social media platforms at this stage. Really understand the power of email marketing and try and go hyper local with your influencers. So that's all I have for you today. No questions? No problem. I think I do have to ask for questions, so if anyone...
Sorry, was it the Instagrammers that are all for the 40, 50-year-old, was it?
Facebook, I can bring it back to it. I'm sure we'll share these slides afterwards. Facebook for millennials, which are, I guess, class 27 to 42, you have 35%. And Gen X, which is 43 to 58, you're looking at 31%. And then for Instagram, your Gen X comes down slightly. And then your millennials, which again is your 27 to 42, goes to 38%.
Ciaran, can you give us a sense where Easons traffic comes from in terms of kind of a real sense that is retailer focused? Because a lot of these numbers are very general.
Yeah, most of these channels I would have spoke about, like we would engage in, so paid search, like that email is huge for us. It's where our customers engage with us, it's where they're loyal to us, if I'm honest. In terms of social media, we dabble a little bit. We're trying to, again, understand ourselves where the shifts in the audience are going. They're shifting all the time, so we just need to make sure that we're have the right message in the right channel at the right time. And like I say, it's a huge challenge to try and make sure you have those messages to the right audience.
Sorry, would you mind going back to the other slide?
Sure, yeah, which one?
Can you think of a concrete example that you've done yourself in the beginning of the year, that's something that just a social media post that worked or that had a great response, or anything particular that springs to mind?
I guess this depends what like sale driving ones. If we do curations around, we'll take Mother's Day for example. I know that's upcoming. We've just had Valentine's Day, I suppose. And what we would have done there is essentially we start with our website, we build our curation, we get our graphics correct, populated with both book and non-book product, and we then you kind of go universal with it then. So we have an email that matches to creative and tries to fit into those cohorts that we spoke about, and then again you're tailoring that message out to social media. So through your Instagram stories, the carousel ones that go into the feed. We're not active on TikTok. How old I'm so old I can't even say it. TikTok. But yeah, for the traditional social channels that we're on, we would again married into there.
Could I just ask a publisher perspective question? What's the, I suppose, we're always curious about the most effective way that we can support and how authors doing that really drive people to the website or drive people to purchase. Can you think of any examples where that's been really effective? Like, is it the ones with the biggest social media followings? You know, that's what, you know, that's the best way.
It's not necessarily having the biggest social media following, it's having the right social media following. So you see a lot of brands might, maybe in terms of email, they try and get as many people on board or just follow us for this or that and the other, but they're not actually their target audience. So I suppose from a publisher's point of view, like if you're trying to run or promote a book as such, it's just, I suppose, speaking with our team, if you were to deal with us or any other brand, and just utilise like that, some of the paid channels, our email channels, where we can segment it, and we know that this book is for 40-year-old ladies, and we can target that messaging to them. Where again, if you're going with sort of blast all activities, and I'm a 60-year-old man who's no interest in that book, it's just lost on me and becomes noise, and then I'll disengage with that brand if I'm constantly seeing stuff that doesn't that sort of.
So you're more interested in hearing from us about how to segment, or you know, what the audience is, rather than having our authors kind of trying to.
Yeah, so I guess from a retailer's point of view is that I'm really countering what I just said, but is try it and build a broader audience, but as long as we have the technology there to understand how we segment them, and then working with a publisher, you know, the target for that book, we can then use our tools to try and get the message in front of them.
Did you say you don't use TikTok?
It's a challenging conversation we're having.
That seems odd, just for the size of Easons and the customers you have.
Yeah, my thinking on it is if you're going to do it, it needs to be done right. There's no point in just throwing something up to have a presence. Like, I think it needs a real strategy. So, I mean, do we do that at head office level from a marketing team? Do we start engaging with our teams in stores and how to really drive quality content? Because again, I suppose anything you spoke about, there's no point in just putting trash out for the sake of putting trash out. You want to strategize around it, you know.
What's a good oral AS?
Anything above 1,000% really. So that essentially means for every €1 you're spending, you're getting about €10 back, which, you know, ultimately should try and cover your costs, protect your margins, and things like that.
10 euro back.
All good? Can I breathe now? Thanks.